Welcome to Hockey Night in New York, where Islanders hockey is always top shelf. Whether you got your start as a Dynasty veteran, a Millbury survivor, or you were born into the Church of Trotz, Hockey Night in New York is your home for all things Isles. Now, here are your eclectic hosts, Sean Cuthbert and Christian Arnold.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Hockey Night in New York. Welcome to the program, everyone. It is Tuesday, June 22nd, 2021. Coming at you live from the Hockey Night in New York studios on Long Island. Back in the saddle here. Another big show coming up for you tonight. Mr. Justin Bourne of Sportsnet will be joining us. Really excited about that. Looking forward to talking to him. My name is Sean Cuthbert. With me, as always, is Mr. Christian Arnold. Christian, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Sean. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I mean, it's kind of weird since there hasn't been a game in the Islanders Lightning series since Saturday. We're still waiting on Game 5, which is coming up. It's a little strange, but yeah, I'm trying to just pretend that last night didn't happen, but I guess I just have to accept that reality.
Yes, I think you do.
Yeah,
Game 6 is tomorrow, and you're going to be very confused why they're down 3-2.
Yeah. I guess Game 5 did happen. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that it did. But we're here. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about all the other games in the series because we haven't done a show here since our Game 1 preview at RJ Daniels.
That's right.
So, folks, now that we're here, I want to remind you all that we are happy to be sponsored by Blue Line Deli and Bagels, located at 719 West Jericho Turnpike in Huntington. Head on over for great food, great people, and great service. Check out the menu at BlueLineDeli.com. We're also happy to be sponsored by Ty Technology, a voice-over IP company providing phone services for businesses across the country. If you're tired of dealing with long hold times and the impersonal service of companies like Spectrum, Optimum, and Verizon, give Ty Technology a call at 516-856-7800 for 3 free months of service. And we are also happy to be sponsored by Manscaped, the men's below-the-waist grooming champions of the world. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for everywhere you want to get rid of hair. Manscaped just launched their 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with promo code HockeyNightNY at manscaped.com. So, Christian, like I was saying, we hadn't even dropped the puck on this series the last time we did the show, and a lot has gone on since then. It is now 3-2, thanks to the absolute massacre that occurred last night in Tampa Bay. Let's not dance around the fact it was a total murder. There was blood on the ice, and the Islanders now find themselves in a do-or-die situation. They got to win 2 in a row to go to the Stanley Cup Finals. So with that, what do you say, CA?
Absolutely. Probably one of the worst playoff performances we've seen out of the New York Islanders. I mean,
maybe ever?
Since the 90s, since 94 probably, because that was embarrassingly bad. The Islanders were outperformed, outplayed. They looked listless. It was not their game. It was not the way that the Islanders have played all postseason, and it was not the way the New York Islanders need to play going into that game. And
No.
honestly, it was a wasted opportunity after the momentum you would have assumed they picked up after the Ryan Pulock save in the final seconds of Game 4 at the Coliseum. You get a big win there. You tie the series, go back to Tampa with the chance to take a series lead and come back to the Coliseum on Wednesday to win it, and they just dropped the ball.
As they had done in the previous 2 series, right? I mean, the script was kind of following a very similar in a very similar fashion. If you look back at they end up, squeaking out a Game 5, maybe 2 games that they shouldn't have won, but they did, and then they were able to take that home and close it out in Game 6. So a lot of different elements to this series, even for Tampa Bay, because this is the first series that went 2-2 for them. They had won their 2 previous series, I believe, or at least they went up 3-1 in their 2 previous series. So they had their first 2-2 draw with the Islanders, and now the Islanders face themselves a new situation this year where they're down 3-2. They were last year. They couldn't tie it up, and they're hoping to flip the script again this time around. But the difference between last season and this one is they're not in a bubble. They get to go to the Coliseum tomorrow night, and hopefully that's something that helps propel them to win a 3rd Game 6 in a row, just to force a Game 7 for a chance to play back in Tampa.
Absolutely, and it needs to be an effort that is, I think the Islanders said it best, or they can't play any worse than they did on Monday. So you can only kind of go up from there. So that is a positive when you're trying to find things to be, excited about for Wednesday evening at the Nassau Coliseum. Is that they can't play worse than they did on Monday.
No.
I mean, that first period was, abysmal. I think they had 8 or 9 rush opportunities against.
Mm-hmm.
They were out attempted. They were outshot. They were
out everything.
Outchanced. It was bad. It was as far away from their game and their style of play as we've seen them in a long time.
Yeah, and I think that's just what's so shocking about it. And I think Islander fans have probably gone through a range of emotions since witnessing that last night. Just the shock and awe of the game unfolding that way. I mean, the first goal 45 seconds in was almost par for the course. We've seen that a lot these playoffs, and
it's not new.
And yeah, it's not. To the point where I was sitting there watching the game and I was like, okay. I was like, this is fine because this has happened before and they bounced back from it. The problem is that it snowballed into the just monstrosity that it became throughout the rest of the game. They never recovered. They never settled the game down, and they weren't able to, kind of battle out a tight game, which I think we all expected. And, I'd love to know just what happened to this team that led them to have such an awful effort against the Lightning in Game 5. And look, sometimes nights just don't go your way, but I mean, it just went so far beyond. You had the goal going off Andy Green's glove. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was a little bit of bad luck. And I was saying to you before the show, the Stamkos goal to open the game was almost a mirror image of Barzal's goal in Game 4, where there was a rebound. It just landed right next to the net. He was wide open. He just put it in, and it was like, oh man. So, and then it just, again, snowballed from there. And, you wonder where these guys' heads are at. And especially a Barry Trotz coach team to not be ready for a pivotal Game 5 like that. It's just really surprising. And you don't have the explainer or the excuse that they had for Game 1 last year in the playoffs, where they had the short layoff. They had to fly from Toronto to Edmonton. They got their doors blown off in Game 1 against Tampa, and at least they had 2 goals in that game. This one, they couldn't even muster a goal, and you just wonder what happened. But, I mean, like you were saying before, if you're looking for any positives or silver lining, whether they put up 8 goals or 20, it only counts as one game. So as long as they're able to have short memories on this one, like they have in some playoff series past, they can show up tomorrow and they can still give them a good game and try to force a Game 7.
Well, again, I think if you're trying to be positive and look on the bright side, the Islanders have shown that they can do that. This is a team that, even in their worst efforts, they've managed to come back and give some of their best and find ways to win. And this will put that mentality and that storyline to the test tomorrow, because this is the ultimate version of that task, right? Because they played their worst game of hockey, period. In a very, I think, arguably under Barry Trotz, if not further back into history.
Yeah,
this is now a test of, all right, that belief in the system, their belief in their game, their belief in each other, and how quickly they can turn the page. We've talked about it all playoffs, about how the Islanders have been able to turn the page after a bad game or turn the page after, maybe a rough period or two. This is going to be the ultimate test, because their season's on the line. Their time at the Nassau Coliseum is on the line. And, for a lot of Islander fans who have been living and dying with this team through this playoff run and through the season, this means more than I think a lot of people can really conceptualize outside of this area. And I think tomorrow's game, we talked about Game 4 becoming the biggest game in Islander history at Nassau Coliseum. Well, this Game 6 will now be the biggest Islander game in franchise history in a very long time, probably since the 80s. So it really puts an emphasis on what this team can do. And it really will tell the tale of how history will look back on the season and how history will look back on this 2021 New York Islanders squad that really, kind of shocked everybody in the first round against Pittsburgh and the second round against Boston. And really, I guess people kind of got a little bit ahead of themselves after that Game 1 win with such an emphatic performance against Tampa Bay. The Islanders kind of got humbled the next game, but they came back and, they found a way to even the series in Game 4. They've had these pretty miraculous moments. The Ryan Pulock save certainly kind of transcends just the moment in Islander history, but it transcends into a moment among really great moments in New York sports history.
Yeah.
And there are quite a few.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And look, depending on how the rest of this run goes, that one can really be just etched in New York sports lore. I mean, if they end up going to the Cup final and end up winning a Cup, that's always going to be the first thing people think of.
Yeah.
Is that save, or one of the first at the very least, because who knows what other moments they might make between now and the end. But yeah, it's been a very different series, I feel like, since last year's. I feel like against the Bolts last year was more of survival and pounce on opportunities, and that's how they got to 6 games against them. I feel like, obviously, last night aside, this has been a much more balanced series between the two. I think they've exchanged a lot more chances back and forth. It wasn't so much hanging on for dear life. If you look at some of the the special numbers, the advanced numbers, if you will, the Islanders have carried the play in some instances leading into last night, where they've certainly been hanging with Tampa Bay. And, it's funny. That's what makes last night even more of such just a completely out of nowhere, sucker punch almost, a punch to the gut.
Yeah.
In that, we thought that the massacre game was going to be out of the option here, because there wasn't that excuse like we talked about last year, the whole game one thing, right? And it was a more balanced series through the first 4. And then last night was just like, where the hell did that come from?
Yeah, that's the surprising thing in all of it, is the fact that there was this effort that just didn't seem characteristic to the Islanders, especially the lack of discipline on the ice in the second period, the Matthew Barzal incident with Jan Ruda, I should say, and a lot of undisciplined play. The Islanders took 57 minutes worth of penalties last night in an effort where they couldn't do that. You can't take penalties against the Tampa Bay Lightning, and Tampa Bay made them pay. They gave them too many opportunities. They lost a lot of battles. They made a lot of turnovers. It was just an uncharacteristic game overall. Yeah. And again, going back to what I was saying before, it takes it back to the point of now is the ultimate test of that turn the page mentality, that focus on what's next. Because if the Islanders can't get past that, then this is over.
Yeah, you can't really argue with that. But Christian, that went fast, so we're going to have to break, because Justin Bourne of Sportsnet will be joining us. We want to thank all of you for tuning in at twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY. We'll be right back.
Customer service is the backbone of any great business, and reliable telecommunication is essential to keeping your client base happy. Introducing Ty Technology, a low-cost, flexible internet phone service founded on the idea that every customer deserves exceptional service while providing simple setup and management and easy integration to clients across the country. Ty Technology will not only create a custom solution tailored to your specific needs, but will partner with you to provide a competitive edge to you and your clients. And if you need support, you won't be routed to an automated call center in another country. You'll get a live representative that had a personal hand in building your account. So Islander fans, if your business is looking for a change from companies like Spectrum, Verizon, or Optimum, Ty Technology is offering 3 free months of service for any of its affordable packages. Just call 516-856-7800. That's 516-856-7800. Or visit them on the web at TyTechnology.com. That's Ty, T-I-E, Technology.com. Ty Technology, the right choice for your internet phone service.
The only thing better than a great Long Island deli is a great Long Island deli run by die-hard Islander fans. Blue Line Deli and Bagels, located at 719 West Jericho Turnpike in Huntington, will make any Islander fan feel right at home with its familiar blue and orange theme and Isles decor. Blue Line Deli and Bagels proudly serves Bagel Boss bagels, along with breakfast favorites, hockey-themed heroes, quesadillas, salads, fresh-made smoothies, and much more. So stop on in for delicious food, a clean atmosphere, and a happy staff ready to greet you with friendly service no matter what team you support. Want to place an order for pickup? Call 631-944-3222 or visit BlueLineDeli.com to check out the menu and order online. Blue Line Deli and Bagels, where the great selections will have you saying, yes, yes, yes.
On the couch for more Islanders therapy with Shawnee and C. Arnold on Hockey Night in New York.
That's right, this is Hockey Night in New York, always streaming live on twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY to watch us live, and of course you can find us on all your favorite podcast providers. It's that time of the show where we go on the line, brought to you by our friends over at Ty Technology. And on the line with us is the co-host of Hockey Central on Fan 590, up in Toronto. And, of course, you can read his writings about all things hockey on sportsnet.ca. Of course, that's the great Justin Bourne. Justin, how are you?
I'm doing well. How you guys doing?
We're doing well. I think Shawnee's still trying to recover from the 8-0 shellacking last night.
Just a bit.
Everyone's hanging in there, Justin. We do appreciate you joining us. I know you got a very busy schedule, but you've certainly kind of taken Islanders country by storm with your piece at the beginning of the series about the New York Islanders and kind of countering the narrative of what many outside, I want to say, of the New York market have called boring hockey by the New York Islanders. And I want to start there with this because it was such a very well thought out piece and a really interesting read from someone who understands the game with a much better authority than I think Sean or myself do. And really kind of delve into what makes the Islanders so good and why the narrative that they're quote unquote boring is just not true. Maybe you can explain that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think the Islanders are fun in a way that's like a really fine wine. Like I feel like if you're a wine drinker and when you first start drinking wine, you're like, I don't know, it's okay. And then you can't really tell the difference between one and the next. And eventually your tastes get to a point really well refined and you get to know the differences. To me, you have to know hockey to that level to appreciate the Islanders and what makes them special. They really play such a confident brand of hockey, and I say confident in the way that they trust what they're doing. They are patient and they wait to take their chances until it's necessary. They wait for people to make mistakes before they strike. But the big misconception, I just think, is that they sit back. That, because I remember the expression "park the bus" was a thing. Like, because of that, when people think that they just like are the New Jersey Devils and trap, but they go, man, like they're forecheck. The way they get after and bang bodies and pursue pucks and get pucks back, it's like it's a lot of fun on that side of things. And then to be honest, it's one of the only teams you can root for where you're not terrified when the puck's in your own end because you're pretty comfortable that they know how to handle themselves and keep the puck to the outside. So it's for the people who watch them a lot, I think they know there's something there that's special. Like I say, like a truly nice wine that you kind of have to know wines to appreciate.
For sure, Justin. And just to expand on that, I mean, why do you think it seems like some out there are just a little quick to go to that boring, quote unquote, description of their hockey game or, typically low scoring? I mean, why do you think it is that people seem to be quick to say that?
Well, there's a number of things. One is that anytime a team is good defensively, people pair that with boring. Like everyone claims they want to see 9-8 games or whatever. So they're good defensively. So that comes up there. The other thing is marquee names. You don't have, Barzal is obviously the man he is. We know what he can do and how exciting he is. But, you compared to a Tampa Bay or, some of the other elite teams where you say, okay, they got Crosby or this team has McDavid, they just don't have pure star power. So I think, and I will say this is more of a U.S. sports coverage thing where, superstars are made into the main attraction. Like if you don't have LeBron, who cares? If you don't, it's about the big names. In Canada, there are some big names on the NHL teams, but I don't think it's as necessary. Like people are loving the Montreal Canadiens and who do they have? But I think it's just a lack of star power and a defensive first focus.
Justin, one of the highlights of your story on Sportsnet.ca, and I encourage anyone who hasn't read it to go check it out already. It's called 6 Examples That Explain How the Islanders Find Success. You can find it on Sportsnet.ca. Justin, one of the items you mentioned was the Islanders' physicality, and that they play physical but not like meatheads. And one of the interesting points of that is that they've done it so well without taking so many penalties. Now, when you look back at some of the coverage from outside of the New York market, when the Islanders played Boston, when the Islanders played Pittsburgh, there seemed to be some kind of pushback against that notion that the Islanders play clean hockey. And of course, Bruce Cassidy has been immortalized now for his comments about calling the New York Islanders the New York Saints. What is it about the Islanders that their play physically has been able to be done so cleanly? And what is it that I guess other markets don't necessarily agree with that notion because you've seen so many teams kind of push back against that?
Well, I think it's the fundamental misunderstanding again of their fourth line. A lot of people look at those guys and think, I will say there's some like eye rolling in this era of hockey that this is not like the analytic darling team, right? That these guys play more classic traditional hockey where they forecheck and they finish their checks and they'll answer the bell. But, they don't go out there and take penalties and goad people into fights necessarily. And, they're one of those guys that like, they will, they don't start fights, but they'll finish them. That old line, like they have a number of those guys who are willing to do that. To me, it's a veteran thing to know the line between how far you can push a team and the animosity and bringing up the energy level, but not being so immature that it becomes a street brawl, an after school fight. And all of a sudden you're spearing guys and, taking guys down behind the play and, the type of things that you see from excitable younger teams. There's a maturity to this team that is at the core of what makes it good. Even some of the guys, it's a shame to not have Lee, but, a guy like Brock Nelson and, guys and Josh Bailey that can contribute and just understand how to play and when to play a certain way. I really like that this team feels like a team that could have played 20 years ago and still be successful.
Right on, Justin. And why don't we pivot now to their current state of play? They're down 3-2 against the Tampa Bay Lightning. This is their second go-around in the semifinals with them. What have you seen out of the Islanders' performance so far? We obviously all know what happened last night, and they're in a bit of a hole now. But what do you make of their performance against the Bolts, their high-powered offense, and do you think they got a shot at digging themselves out, forcing a Game 7?
I do. Like, I'm sure like you guys, like, could you I just have so much confidence in what's going to happen in the Coliseum. Like, it's not going to be 8-0 tomorrow. That is not what's happening. I said today on our show that all I know is the Islanders, it's going to be a 1 or 2 goal game, if not tied, and in the third period, it's likely going to be a tied or a 1 goal game. Like the type of hockey they play is going to drag this thing down into a really, I guess, an opportunistic game. And I think both teams are going to play really tight and be looking for that opportunity, waiting for the other team to make mistakes, and you like the odds of the Islanders in a game like that. And with the crowd behind them and the potential for being the last game there, like, I just feel like they're going to get Game 6. And if they get Game 6, now we're talking about who knows. They got a split in Tampa. They've already got a 1 win there. It's not out of the question.
Right.
I throw that last game out. It's just, once you're down 3-0 or something on the road and, the work and effort that goes into some of these games, maybe call it 4-0. Once it's 4-0, it's like, okay, like everyone's pretty much trying to not get hurt and get through to the next game because there's some realism involved. And I don't even, like I said, I'm tossing it out, but no, I think they can get back into it. I've really liked that they're not intimidated by this Tampa team and that they don't try to be something they're not. That you just know what you're getting from this team. And, that's why last night I guess it was last night, was such an anomaly. It was just like, did not see that coming, but that's so rare that, again, throwing it out, and I like their chances of going to a Game 7.
This is Hockey Night in New York, and this is On the Line, brought to you by our friends over at Tide Technology. On the line with us is the co-host of Hockey Central on 590, The Fan up in Toronto, and you can read his hockey writings over at sportsnet.ca. Justin Bourne, of course, the son of Islanders great Bob Bourne, and you did mention the Nassau Coliseum, Justin, so I'd be remiss if I did not ask you about this being the final year, and I know you've been through this, I'm sure, a couple times now with the on-again, off-again relationship the Islanders have had with this building, but this is seriously the final time. Thinking back to your memories of the Nassau Coliseum, that building, and what a special place it's been. What has this playoff been like for you to watch it from afar and kind of see the old barn get one last opportunity to really shine in the spotlight?
Well, I guess it's really tough to explain to anyone what that arena means to me and my family. Like, my mom was, moved from Saskatchewan with my dad when they were 20 years old to go play for the New York Islanders straight off. My mom's from Moose Jaw and was living in Saskatoon. My dad's from Kindersley. I know you don't have to know where those places are to know what they're like.
Relatively.
And so, suddenly they're there, and my mom's in the wives' room, at Nassau Coliseum, and, all the years, and all of a sudden, my brother and I come along, and we're kind of in the family room. So all those games my mom went to all those years, we were around there, and then, the Stanley Cups that were won there, to, my dad's jersey retirement the Hall of Fame induction, where, I went down there, and that's when I re-met, Brianna Gillies, my now wife. I remember standing in the Coliseum, for that. I had my first NHL, opportunity with an NHL team with the Islanders myself, and it was in Nassau Coliseum. I asked Wade Dublowitz, who I thought was the PR guy, where the dressing room was when I was in the dressing room, because I thought it was a change room. It was so small. I've just got a lifetime of memories tied to that building. So it means the world to me. Honestly, I can't think of a game I've wanted to win more than tomorrow night, which means in sports, you just can't ever get your hopes up, but I just would love a win tomorrow night.
Justin, obviously there's this perception down here among Islander fans that the national media and the Canadian media hates them. You're up there in Toronto, now if you ask an Islander fan, probably almost the most hated team other than the New York Rangers for Islander fans. What is that like, having that connection to the Islanders, being in a different part of the world, so to speak, here, and kind of see it from the outside in? And is that perception true or not? I've always sensed that it's not necessarily true. It's kind of that chip on the shoulder that Islander fans have, being the stepchild in New York. But I was curious your thoughts on if that notion has any truth to it.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any truth to it that, the media, what I think there's truth to is that Toronto is the most navel gazing, self-centered, can't see past their own nose hockey city in the world.
Love that.
They don't have a clue. And, this, because of who we cater to with our writing, and I love myself in with this, you don't have to know what's going on with the Anaheim Ducks. And not that the Islanders are the Anaheim Ducks, but it's their focus is right there on Toronto. Right. And if you can, Montreal gets into their peripheral vision, and Ottawa does, and they hate Vancouver. They hate Vancouver the most outside Montreal. And so for the Islanders, it's I think there's frustration that they have to learn about a team that they didn't expect to have to learn about. They're like, oh, I know about Tampa Bay. They won the Stanley Cup. And then someone's like, what about the Islanders? And they're like, screw the Islanders. Because they don't know anything. They don't know anything about the Islanders. It's, I don't think it's really more of a fault of Toronto's doing than a dislike of the Islanders. But I do get, the way it went down with Tavares and, the rival fan base is just being awful on the internet did not help the perception of all that. I understand.
It is very entertaining, though, Justin. But, we talk about the closing of the Nassau Coliseum coming, but we also have the opening of UBS Arena. We have a sort of renaissance now with the team making 2 semifinals in a row. Lou Lamoriello coming in, Barry Trotz. We're seeing some success here, consistent success out of this franchise that it hasn't seen in a very long time. And being a part of Islander royalty, as you are, and being a part of the Gillies family and the Bourne family, what is just the reaction, from your perspective and your family's perspective, seeing obviously not glory days, but better days here with the franchise?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's surprising how much it means to me. I'm actually a little bit surprised myself. The great thing I think about the way this is happening with the Coliseum is it's on to better days ahead. And it didn't used to feel like that. Like the Barclays thing, it just didn't feel right. It wasn't what was supposed to happen. Knowing that they're sold out for season tickets and 50 or 56 suites and all that, the franchise has such positive momentum, and seeing John Ledecky in the crowd, and obviously Clark is on the jumbotron smashing beer cans on his head. There's it ramped up the interest and attention for our family, and so it's been a reminder of how deep our ties are. I guess you move to Canada and you're not around it as much. I talked to my aunt and my uncle in Kelowna, BC yesterday, and they're nervously sitting around watching the hockey game, to see how the Islanders do. And you just forget how deep, the Islanders have permeated our family. And, the next step is just to get my son to care about hockey, and he'll be on his way with that. Great. He's only 4, so I'm not rushing him, but I can't get him too into it yet, but we'll get him there.
Justin, I have to ask. You mentioned Clark Gillies and the beer chug. Was that what everyone was very surprised about that here on Long Island? For you, did you see that and go, "Oh, that was just a Tuesday back when we had the barbecues during the summer"?
Yeah, it surprised me not at all. I didn't even flinch. I'm surprised it hasn't happened sooner, to be honest. Awesome. I was laughing. I talked to Clark a little bit about it, and he was just saying that, he didn't want to get beer all over the people around him, and he knew he was going to do it, so he finished the beer basically before they cut to him, so he could kind of take the last sip and give it the smash. But he's wild, man. Like, he's a ton of fun, great guy, and he's superstitious. I guess he got some tickets on the red line when the Islanders started winning on the playoffs, and he hasn't sat in the suite since. He's been in the stands every game in the same seat because he's trying to keep the good juju going.
That's fantastic, and I know the fans love it, Justin. It's great to see him in the building, and really want to send a thanks out to you for giving us some time here tonight. It was great stuff, and enjoy the rest of the playoffs, and hopefully we'll have you on again down the road.
Hey, anytime. If if they're in the finals, I may have to make a trip down there. We'll see.
Yes, that's what I like to hear.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. You got it, Justin. Take care.
Justin Bourne from sportsnet.ca. You can hear him every day on the Fan 590 up in Toronto from 12 to noon on Hockey Central with Jeff Merrick, David Amber, and Anthony Stewart. He does a phenomenal job up there, and if you don't catch the show live, you can, of course, subscribe to their podcast. Of course, check out our podcast before you do any other podcast listening. And, of course, you can read a lot of his great work on sportsnet.ca. We really do appreciate Justin taking out time and giving us some insight. And really, I think, kind of a very different perspective than you hear from a lot of other media people. And I think that comes from, obviously, Justin playing the game and being a part of it for such a long time and having such a deep connection to the Islanders as well.
Yeah, I mean, just having an ally like him up there and to be able to put out that piece, because I loved it. I saw it and I was like, yes, this is what I've been waiting for. And I didn't know where or who it was going to come from, but I was like, of course, I saw the headline. I saw it was Justin's piece, and I was like, yes, this makes complete sense. This is going to be fantastic. Read it, and it was. And finally, it was a breakdown of just like all the reasons why you're wrong for calling the Islanders boring. And it just seems to be something that's taken on a life of its own. I commented about it on Twitter as well, and to me, it's just such a lazy angle to take. And it really just says to me that, rather than just admit that they're not watching the games, it's just easy to take a narrative, right? Oh, well, they're low scoring. They play defensive hockey, so obviously it's boring. But if and not even just in the playoffs, even not to say that every regular season Islander game is, jump out of your seat hockey.
Right.
But they play a fun brand of hockey, so all you have to do is sit down and watch the games, and you say, okay, maybe these guys aren't as sleepy as they thought they were. So, for me, it was just great to see an article come out like that in an outlet like Sportsnet, so people outside of the island can finally see this and say, hey, yeah, maybe I should check these guys out. Maybe I should give them a chance before I just write them off, as a boring hockey team.
Well, the Islanders will have to come up with a couple goals tomorrow night when they take on the Tampa Bay Lightning in Game 6 of the Stanley Cup semifinals. I was about to say Stanley Cup finals. Stanley Cup semifinals, not the Eastern Conference final.
No.
We're not calling in that. But, Sean, you did have an opportunity to go to Game 5. You were down there in Tampa Bay, which was, I mean, I'm sure it was nice to get down there, although we did have nice weather here on Long Island. But I'm sure it was nice to get down there and enjoy some of the sun. I know you saw some of your family. I think you went and saw your dad for
Father's Day.
Yeah, so you got to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So you got to enjoy it with your family, which is, I mean, phenomenal. It's great that you got to go to the game, but I'm sure traveling, it's a hectic process, and you want to look good when you travel, right?
Yes, all the time.
So, of course, our friends in Manscaped have hooked us up.
They have.
They gave us to try, and we've been loving it, the Lawnmower 4.0.
Yes.
It's been phenomenal for all your manscaping needs below the belt.
Sure, or anywhere around the belt. Yeah.
And now they've given us the Weed Whacker.
Yes.
To help us with some of our manscaping above the belt, above the face.
Yeah, well, in the face. Literally in the face, yeah.
And I'm told it makes a great Father's Day gift. I know you told me before the show your dad actually asked. I'm shocked.
Yeah.
He actually asked you about the Lawnmower 4.0, which I'm sure was very uncomfortable for you, and the Weed Whacker. And it both make great gifts for Father's Day. And if you didn't get your father anything for Father's Day, there's still time. And if you go to Manscaped.com, use the promo code HockeyNightNY. You get 20% off all of your purchases.
That's
from
right.
From the weed whacker to the lawnmower.
Yeah. Not only that, they have gift sets. In fact, you can so if you get like one of their gift sets, right, that comes with like the lawnmower, the weed whacker, maybe some of the colognes that they have, they already discount all the items in there to begin with the package. Then you can combo on top of that with the promo code, and you knock off even more money. So you can save a lot of dollars if you're looking to, get rid of that unwanted hair.
Absolutely.
Wherever it may be.
Manscaped.com, promo code HockeyNightNY, 20% off, and your free shipping. You cannot beat the deal. Manscaped.com, HockeyNightNY is the promo code for your purchase. Sean, but seriously, though, you did go down to Game 5. You did get to be in the arena for that shellacking, and while I'm sure it was not fun to be there, I'm sure it was nice to experience the game with some of your family in attendance as well.
Christian, it felt like a great idea at the time. It really did. So, yeah, I already had that trip booked already to go visit Pops for Father's Day. Hadn't seen him in a year and a half because of the pandemic and everything. They live down there in Florida. So I booked that trip just so I can see, Dad for Dad's Day, right? And then the playoffs happened, and the Islanders ended up playing Tampa Bay. I was supposed to fly back Monday morning.
Yeah.
And then when all this unfolded, I was like, well, I'm going to be there already. So, real missed opportunity, to fly back that morning. I'm already going to be there. Right. So, I went to the internet, clacked around on the keys a little bit, changed the flight, ended up coming back today. I was like, this is great. I get to catch the game. I brought my nephew down there, and he's a Florida resident as well, just outside of Tampa. So he's a Lightning fan, but that's all right. 17-year-old dude. And, brought him down and said, yeah, come enjoy the game. I was hoping to, laugh in his face after the Islanders won. But I was not the one who was laughing.
I heard he was very graceful in victory,
He was a true gentleman, I have to say. He was. And in fact,
you can tell he does not get that from you.
Wow. No, maybe not. But but in any case, so here's the thing. I had to sit through all 8 of those goals so I could let him enjoy the night. Now, if he wasn't with me, probably would have been out of there by the third period.
Right.
Whether that's a cardinal sin or not in a playoff game, I don't know. But, come on, 5-6-0. It's like, all right.
I don't think anyone would have blamed.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I mean, you look at social media. There were a lot of people saying, "Oh, I'm changing the channel to."
Yeah.
So I don't know. I heard The Bachelor was on last night.
I learned a lot about myself last night, Christian. That I was able to sit through and endure an 8-0 drubbing at the hands of the Lightning.
And not leave your nephew at the arena by himself to find his way home.
Yeah, no, I learned that I could sit through that and tolerate it.
As you should. It's only a hockey game.
Right, it's only sports, folks. So I survived it. It was it's one of the most awful sporting experiences I'll ever have in my life. It will forever be burned into my memory. I'm sure my nephew will never let me forget it. Hey, you remember that time? Yeah, yes, I do. I do, Cooper. But
John Cooper?
No.
Happy coincidence?
That's his first name. Yeah. So, but I guess that is a pretty happy coincidence. But yeah, so I was there. I thought it was going to be great, and then it really was the opposite of that. But you know what? It is what it is. I got people blaming me on Twitter. It's your fault that they lost because you were there.
Probably.
Okay, fine. I'll
Although
take one for the team.
You've been at the Coliseum for winning games. So
Plenty of wins.
That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, it really doesn't. Although, Christian, I am 0 for 2 now on Islander playoff road games.
So maybe you should stop going. Maybe you should. Hey, don't publicize
I went to Game 7 in D.C.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, you were there.
I was
covering in 2015, and that didn't work out
well. It's funny you mentioned 2015 because that certainly seems to fit the narrative that we are now finding ourselves in with the Islanders on the brink of elimination. This time to the Tampa Bay Lightning, down 3-2, heading into a Game 6.
Yes.
Back then, though, it was a Barry Trotz coached Washington Capitals that had a 3-2 series lead after a pretty embarrassing loss to the Capitals in Game 5 on the road, that time in the nation's capital. And then the Islanders came back and they win Game 6 to force a Game 7, which Sean just mentioned, where he was on the road. They lose in a pretty tough effort, despite losing by 1. Franz Nielsen gets that crazy goal in the second period to tie the game, and then they lose by 1 goal, which just seemed the whole game was very bizarre. But this certainly has that feel to it. Now you come back to the Nassau Coliseum, not to mention that was the original Nassau Coliseum closing, right?
Yeah.
That was the first time the building was shutting its doors to Islanders hockey, and we were never going to be back there again. Now we're doing it all over again.
Right.
6 years later.
Right.
Shutting down the barn again with the Islanders on the brink of elimination.
And we might do it again in October. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it. UBS may not open until November, so
That's
we might be back. So,
but it has that feel to it, and I kind of agree with Justin in the sense that the Islanders coming back to Nassau Coliseum, like I said before, you can't play any worse than you did on Monday.
No.
So people need to erase that from their memory.
Yes.
Or their thought process going into Game 6. But this certainly has the feel of them coming back to the building. Everyone knows what's on the line. This certainly has a special feeling to it. This entire playoff run has had a special feeling to it beyond just the Ryan Pulock save in Game 4 at the Nassau Coliseum in the closing seconds of the game. You had so many moments where the Islanders seem to be down and out, and they've come back and they've won. Boston, they've stolen a couple games. Pittsburgh, they've stolen a couple games. And then coming back and winning those series. So this certainly has that feel to it as well because of the circumstances that are surrounding the game, because it really takes on a much bigger tone than just, the season's over, they're not going to get to the Cup final. Well, it's it for the Nassau Coliseum, which has not only a special place for someone like Justin Bourne or a lot of Long Islanders, but the guys on the ice as well.
Yeah, look, I think, I'm not a betting man. I never have been, because when I do bet, I lose. But
like betting that you should change your flight and stay in Tampa Bay for an extra day.
Well, I mean, like literally putting a wager on a game. When I do that, I get myself into trouble. So I'm not putting any money on tomorrow night. But I said it on Twitter. I think we're going to see a Game 7 Friday. I know the fans are going to come out like animals tomorrow night. It's going to be ridiculous in there tomorrow because everybody knows what's on the line. And nobody wants the party to end. I don't. Let's keep this going as long as we can. And you can't close the Coliseum on a loss. No matter what happens Friday if we get there. You can't close the Coli on a loss. They got to take tomorrow night just for that alone. You got to end it all on a win. But I'm not even, talking like that's it. Look, they win tomorrow night, which I think they will. Anything can happen in Game 7. It's a cliche, but it's true. I am fully confident they are capable of taking this series. Now, obviously, all odds are against them now. They got to win 2 in a row. Yep. They haven't done that yet against Tampa. It's been win some, lose some, right? So they're going to have to pull off 2 in a row. But look, they pull off tomorrow at the Coliseum. They add to the storybook, and then they go into Tampa, and all the pressure's on Tampa then. And they're going to be feeling good coming out of this Game 6. And look, it's going to be there for the taking. It's going to be there for the taking to get into the Stanley Cup Finals. It's going to be 1 win away. So we're not going to see what happened last night again if they get back to Tampa.
That I agree with.
So
that you can 100% guarantee.
Right, and Justin's probably right about tomorrow. We're all going to be having heart attacks. It's going to be a close game, 1-goal game. I mean, might go to overtime. God forbid if it does, as long as the Islanders come out on top. That's all I care about. And then we probably see that in Game 7 again. But look, you're right. They got to wipe this from their memory. They got to put it in the past, and they're mature enough, and they've been through this stuff enough, like you provided the example against Washington, that they can do that.
Even if you wanted a more current example, you just look at their first 2 rounds against Pittsburgh and Boston.
Exactly.
They've found a way to dig down and find that resiliency in multiple games and multiple periods. So, and the way Barry Trotz has coached this team, they've never really, in the playoffs, you've never really gotten the sense that they're going to drop 2 in a row. In clunker fashion like they did on Monday night. Right.
Yeah, I would be shocked if we're here next week talking about them laying another egg against Tampa Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Wednesday
night, yes.
Yeah, I can't see that happening. And then, again, with so much on the line, if they get to Game 7 Friday, I can't see that happening.
But I think the question becomes, with all the energy and the kind of emotion you exude in Game 6, which will be there, does that leave Game 7 to be in a position where almost when you look back at the Game 7 against the Capitals back in 2015, you almost got the sense that after such a hard-fought, emotional win at the Coliseum to keep the doors open and give the fans that one more win that they were so craving, that they kind of they lost, not to say they lost the edge, but they were tired. They had nothing left in the tank at that point.
I wholeheartedly disagree, and I'll tell you why. Okay. Now, you saw that game. I saw that game. Now, if you remember, that was that version of the Islanders' first taste of Game 7. There was a lot on the line. First time in a long time they had a chance to win a series for the franchise, right, since 1993. They were all green. That was a young team. That was John Tavares, all those guys. They had never been in that position before. The only guy for me that showed up that night was Yaroslav Halak. The guy stood in his head. He gave them every chance to win that game, and the guys in front of him played scared. They were terrified. They played scared to lose. They played not to make any mistakes, and that's what cost them. And you had a more veteran team in the Capitals and a Barry Trotz-led Capitals that won that game. And that's just how they didn't deserve to win that game, and they didn't. I mean, they were lucky that game was as close as it was because, again, they played scared. This is a completely different scenario. I mean, do you want to say maybe they ran out of gas? Maybe in some respect.
But I think you could.
But I don't think that's why they lost that game.
But I think you could make the argument that part of what happened on Monday was the team. The Islanders looked like a team that just were not 100% there. They looked like they were tired. They looked like they were out of gas. And could it be that after 6 games in the first round, 6 games in the second round, all hard-fought series for the most part, that after four hard-fought games against the Tampa Bay Lightning, that now the Islanders are starting to run out of gas a little bit, and you're starting to see it now with the Tampa Bay Lightning and their veteran presence and their kind of ability to clamp down and their strong defense and their good two-way game kind of expose the Islanders for being a little bit tired at this point.
I mean, is that out of the question? No. But I don't think that's ultimately what is going to be, should they get to Game 7 and should they lose Game 7. I don't think that's what's going to end up being the deciding factor. I think this is a team with will, and they've shown that. I mean,
there's no will in this team. There's a Anders, there's a Brock, there's a Jordan. There's no will on the roster.
Right. So it is a team that possesses the will to persevere and win and strive for victory. That's where I was going with that. I know that you know that. But yeah, this is a team with purpose, with resiliency. I mean, again, I've said that's the theme of this team, especially in these playoffs. No matter what's been thrown at them, they've been able to bounce off the mat, and they've been able to win their last 2 series. Now, let's see if they can do it again. Obviously, this is the toughest hill to climb so far.
Yes. Well, I remember last year you used the analogy of the boss at the end of each level of a video game. I think it's safe to say you can correctly bring that analogy back this year too, because the Pittsburgh Penguins were kind of the easy boss on the first level, and then things got a little tougher on the second level, and then the third level they're facing their toughest opponent, boss, if you will.
Yeah.
That they've seen all playoffs.
No, look, a lot of people have gone into these playoffs saying that Tampa's the best team out there. And
they're defending champions for a reason.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that. I mean, obviously a lot of people felt that way about Colorado. It didn't work out so well for them. But look,
that's true.
That being said, this team can win. And you know what? Let's start with tomorrow and take it from there. But they can do it. They've proven that they can beat this team. And it's just a matter of forgetting about last night and getting back to what's gotten you here in the first place. Even what's gotten you, into that Game 1 win, that Game 4 win. I mean, those are great wins by this team, And look, you can say, they let Tampa back, into the game in Game 4. But they ultimately clamped it down. They had a phenomenal second period. They've shown that they can carry the play versus this Tampa Bay Lightning team. Again, it's not survival like it was last year. I feel like it's much more, even level. Again, forget about last night. Obviously, that was not even.
No, not by any stretch of imagination, but we will certainly see. Sean, do you want to do Hero of the Week now?
I do want to do Hero of the Week. I really want to hear that song. So, folks, when you hear this song, that means it's time for the Hero of the Week, brought to you by the Blue Line Deli and Bagels. Half-price hero, which this week is the Poke Check, featuring roast beef, turkey, ham, Swiss, and American cheese, lettuce and tomato, mayo on a hero. Get it half price all week, starting tomorrow. That is Wednesday, through our show next week, which I believe is going to be Monday. Yes. So
I don't know why I didn't use words.
It's okay. Where we'll announce a brand new half off hero. Stop in and mention Hockey Night in New York for half off the Poke Check. And from there, Christian, I'm just going to be a gentleman and allow you to go first. This is probably an easy one for all of us. But Christian, tell us, who is your hero of the week?
I think we all know who it is. It's
we
Ryan
do.
Pulak.
Yeah.
I don't think there's really much of an explanation.
No,
at
there's
this point.
Not necessary. But, we have to go through the process here. So there's Ryan for you, and surprise, surprise, Ryan for me. Ryan Pulak, unanimous hero of the week, thanks to his highlight reel, #1 on SportsCenter, save of the game, literal save of the game in the waning seconds. I mean, you couldn't really draw up the drama any higher than that. What a move by Ryan McDonough.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a phenomenal move. And I have to say, I almost soiled myself when I saw him make that move. And I was like, well, in that very, very focused moment, I was like, we're going overtime. We're going overtime, and I'm going to have a heart attack. And then Ryan Pulock, the hero of the week.
Listen, yeah, absolutely. As Malormania 22 put, he's saving goals, saving puppies,
saving our lives.
I'm sure he probably helped walk an old lady across the street after the game.
Probably.
He deserves to be the hero of the week. That was a momentous save for the series. Unfortunately, the Islanders didn't capitalize on the momentum that they could have gained off of that save heading into Game 5, obviously, and then now in the position they are in Game 6. But certainly a moment that will be remembered for a very long time.
Yes, but Christian, I would be remiss if I didn't say that he was kind of a hero of his own undoing. And I did mention this on Twitter as well, where, for my money, all the fella had to do when he picked up the puck behind the net was eat it on the wall. There was 8 seconds left. You eat that behind the net.
I have some breaking news.
Breaking news
Okay. That we can announce here. The National Hockey League has announced today that Lou Lamoriello has been named the winner of the 2021 Jim Gregory Award presented to the best general manager, their general manager of the year. That's breaking right now.
Love it.
With the league making that announcement, naturally, it's at 9 o'clock at night because, of course.
Hey, live on the air. How about that? Lou Lamoriello, second GM of the Year award as general manager of the New York Islanders. That's fantastic stuff, and that's just something you don't see around here often. But you know what? It's a new era here in Islander country. So congrats to Lou Lamoriello, another GM of the Year award. Great stuff. Way to be on the ball there.
Yes. You yell at me for looking at my phone, and my computer just died. You yell at me looking at my phone, and it paid off this time. By the way, can we adjust that? Our hero of the week now, Lou Lamoriello / Ryan Pulock.
I mean, we could say it. I can't adjust the graphics now, but yeah, sure. So there you go, folks. Late entry here to hero of the week, Lou Lamoriello, with another GM of the Year award. That's fantastic. You know what? I'm surprised. I didn't think they were going to give it to him again. But how about who votes on that?
The broadcasters, I believe.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sure he got a vote from Brendan and Butch.
Looking at my phone.
No, I guess we can let it go this time because this is live, exciting Islander news during an Islander-centric show. But it is kind of funny to see you on screen looking confused and befuddled at your phone because, yeah.
Well, I'm also trying to answer your question of who votes on this award.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Well, I'll continue, putting Ryan Pulock down, even though he's our hero of the week. But yeah, I mean, just eat the puck on the wall. I mean, the fact that he just, kind of made that blind play around the boards, and then, again, gave us another 17 heart attacks in a matter of 5 seconds. When it pops out to the bolts, Kucherov makes that pass to McDonough. He's wide open. He has nobody on him, and then just completely, I'm sure it takes Bolts fans out of their seats with that spin-around move around Brock Nelson, who came close to disrupting the puck, and wide open net. Varlamov comes all the way out. And then Pulock, there he goes to save the day and himself by making that huge save, preserving the 3-2 lead, and of course, the victory that brought us to the 2-2 tie. Christian, you got to be ready at this point. You haven't figured out who votes for it yet? It's not important.
Oh, no, I was tweeting.
Oh, he was tweeting. Look at that. He's not even doing the show anymore. He might as well just get up out of his seat and walk away. I think I just got the news on my watch. How about that? GM of the Year. So, folks, big congrats to Lou Lamoriello. Are you back now? Can we go back to talking to each other, or am I still taking up space here? I still have to keep talking. This is ridiculous. He's tweeting. Did you find out who votes on it?
It is a panel of general managers, NHL executives.
Oh, it's peers.
Print and broadcast media.
A lot of people.
Yeah,
a lot of people. All right, well, congrats to Lou once again, and hopefully
also the first two-time winner of the award in league history.
Lou Lamoriello, folks. People said he was washed up. People in Toronto were laughing. Oh, we got Dubas. Lamoriello's going to ruin that team. Little did they know.
Well, it's funny. You look at a lot of the pieces pieces meaning stories that have been put into different outlets up there in Toronto. A lot of it now, looking back and going, why didn't we try and keep Lou Lamoriello? So there's always that hindsight is 20/20 mentality. But certainly Lamoriello was, and the Islanders were kind of laughed at as they became together, or they came together there in that offseason in 2018 after a very interesting press conference where you had Jack Capio, Doug Waite, and Garth Snow in the room, and Ledecky coming in and saying that they weren't committing to anybody. It was a very fascinating time, and then to bring the stability and see where the Islanders come in the last
You used a lot
3
of
years.
Very appropriate adjectives to describe that period of time. Fascinating, strange, yeah, absolutely. But the good news is we're past all that. John Ledecky is the owner. Lou Lamoriello
Scott
is the
Malkin
GM.
and John Ledecky are the owners.
Yes, the two of them together. Yes, that's correct. I didn't forget about Scott. You mentioned John, and I just went with it.
Well, John Ledecky is the face of the ownership group.
He is co-owner, and Scott Malkin is also owner of the New York Islanders. Yes. Okay. We're clear on that, folks. All right. So, moving on. Thanks for completely tripping me in my line of thinking there. There's, you know what? There's one or two things I did want to quickly talk about before we get to the wrap up here and talk about RJ Daniels and maybe take some audience questions if we have some.
But you have to run that. My computer is dead.
Okay, don't worry. These aren't going to be difficult.
My computer is dead.
These aren't going to be difficult. These are opinion questions. These are observation questions. We don't need your laptop. We don't need your phone, so you can leave that on the table. All right.
I just meant usually you have me read the questions, so I can't.
Oh, that's a decent point.
Yeah.
You could probably bring it up on your phone. All right, so Matt Barzal.
Well, you can see it on there.
We talked about this before.
The penalty?
Yeah, we got to talk about it, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
He got the suspension today, which was
no suspension.
I'm sorry, a fine, the $5,000 fine, which is the maximum under the collective bargaining agreement. He avoided the suspension, what I was trying to say there.
Yes.
Which the Islanders took a big sigh of relief, I'm sure, not having to miss Barzal for that game, and certainly to put himself in a position like that was not the brightest move, to say the least. And Barry Trotz was very calm about the whole thing. I will say that I was a little surprised.
Calm about everything,
considering the 8-0 loss and the fact that Barzal put himself in a bad position with the cross check, which was extremely unnecessary. And I know I saw some people on social media saying, "Oh, he didn't hit him in the face. He got, it was his glove." It wasn't his glove. He cross-checked him. He cross-checked him very clearly in the face. And I think anyone who watches the replay and is being intellectually honest knows that was the case.
I saw a freeze frame of a stick in the Tampa Bay Lightning fellow's throat.
Yeah.
So it hit his throat, whether he meant to or not. He hit his throat.
But it was a bad penalty to take in that moment. Not only get yourself kicked out of the game, but put yourself in a position where now the team was concerned about any sort of extra discipline that could have come down, because the NHL is so extremely inconsistent that you don't know what it could be. Then that's the problem. It's not that I thought the play was suspendable. It's the fact that we don't know what the NHL thinks is suspendable, what's not suspendable, what's a fine, what's not a fine, what's a penalty, what's not a penalty. And I think it raises the broader issue of how terrible the officiating has been this entire playoffs, not just in the Islanders series against the Lightning, not just against the series against Boston, against Pittsburgh, but in every single series. Every team that has been in the playoffs has had some sort of gripe, and they've all been legitimate.
I've seen some replays.
The
There's some bad stuff either called or not called. Absolutely.
The NHL has done such a terrible job of officiating these games that, I mean, it's become a joke in the sense of, like, people kind of just laugh at it now, but also, like, it's an embarrassment for the National Hockey League. But to the Barzal point, it put himself in a position where he could have been suspended.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what the NHL was going to come down with and how they were going to view that hit. We also know that they tend to view those through the lens of if that particular player is hurt or not. We don't know if the Tampa Bay defenseman is going to be ready to go for Game 6. John Cooper did not have an update for him when he addressed the media today, or Wednesday. What's today? Tuesday afternoon. Yeah. Tuesday morning, I should say. So all of that put himself in a bad spot, and it was a penalty that I think a lot of people, or I thought anyway, that Barzal was past taking, that he had gotten himself past the point of making those dumb reactionary penalties, which you had seen him do so often in the past during his career.
Look, if I'm going to try to get into the head of Matt Barzal, and it could be completely way off here, but I think he got himself involved in that nonsense because he saw the game was already lost. He saw the game was over. And he's like, you know what? I'm pissed off. I'm going to rough this guy up a little bit. I don't think he said to himself, I'm going to cross-check this guy in the throat.
I don't think so.
But because again, if you even look at the replay before the incident happened, he's the one going at Ruda. He's the one trying to goad him into something, whatever that is, right? Good. And then Ruda comes back at him, and, whether it's the stick rode up his glove or whatever it was, it ends up hitting him in the throat. The guy drops, like, just a total ton of bricks. Now, whether that's just because it hurt that much or because that's what he was doing. I mean, because I've seen a couple guys in the series on Tampa go down pretty quickly and get back up when there's no call. That's all I'm going to say. But whether he was injured or not, the guy went down, and I have no problem with the penalty that was called on the play, the major, the game misconduct, because at that point, again, the game is over. It's an easy call for the ref, right? You see the score. This isn't going to have any effect on things. All right, sorry, pal, you're out of here. And that also might have just been to calm things down a little
100%.
bit too, right? So fine, game misconduct, see you later. But yeah, I mean, to put yourself, to put your team, to put your fan base in the position where everybody's going to have to worry until the next day to find out whether you're going to play in Game 6 where you're fighting for your life to stay in these playoffs, stay in this series, right? And there'd be a lot of pissed off people here if he ends up getting that 1-game suspension. Maybe pissed off at the league, but also pissed off at Matt Barzal for putting himself in that position. You can't do that. Yeah. You cannot do that in the semifinals of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
I agree.
Regardless of the score.
I agree.
Yeah.
There's no excusing it.
No.
And Barzal will have to have a big game on Wednesday to make up for that because he's going to be needed tomorrow.
Yeah.
He's going to be needed big time.
Yeah, of course. And I think that is why Barry Trotz, a part of the reason why Barry Trotz was so calm in his reaction, because he knows Matt knows. He doesn't have to go yelling at him. He doesn't have to call him out in the media because he already knows he effed up. He already knows that shouldn't have happened. So what's the point of calling him out, right? Let him understand that he made a mistake. And you know what? Maybe it drives him to go out there tomorrow night and be a hero and help win that game.
We will certainly see. That's for sure.
We will certainly see. And the next thing I wanted to talk about, and in fact, T-Boyle _13 asked this question as well. Do you see, I'm going to expand this, do you see any lineup changes for tomorrow, specifically Oliver Wahlstrom getting in there?
I still don't. I think Barry Trotz is so committed to the lineup that he has, especially in games like this where they're coming off a pretty bad loss. We've seen him throw the same lineup out there, even though he's gone on and teased the idea of changing the lineup or changing this or that. The only change I could foresee possibly is from the jump is putting Palmieri up there on the top line and moving Komarov back down to the third line right from the jump, because I think that's worked this series in the last couple games. The Islanders have seemed to, except for Game 5, obviously, the Islanders seem to respond well with those guys in kind of switched up spots, and it's a spot we've advocated for Palmieri to be in before.
Yes.
That's not to say Komarov hasn't done a good job, but I think at this point, Barry Trotz has realized that the Islanders need a little bit more offensive jump, and Palmieri's giving them that at the top line, and Komarov's doing an admirable job playing alongside Palmieri and Pajot, and there really hasn't been that much of an adjustment or a change in the output that those guys have had on the ice when they're out there together. So I think that's maybe the biggest change you see. I'm also curious, I would imagine Semyon Varlamov gets the start again tomorrow.
Oh, yes, without question. I think 100% they're going back to Varley. I mean, and I don't even necessarily think that has anything to do with Sorokin's performance last night. And not to say that you blame him for really
No, I mean that game.
The goals that he let in.
Both goaltenders have been hung out to dry in there. There was no blaming the goaltenders for they need to make this save and they needed to make that.
Yeah.
Save. No, they were in no man's land.
Right,
they were
now,
left on an island.
Look, if Sorokin had came in after going down 3-0, stands on his head, they fight their way back and they win, then you got a discussion. You got a conversation. But with the way that game unfolded, you go back to Varlamov.
100%.
He's the guy who got you here, and outside of last night,
hot.
He's been fantastic. So, yeah, I think it's 100% that Varlamov will start tomorrow night. And I'm with you. I don't think we're going to see anybody sat and anybody else brought in. That's assuming everybody's healthy who has been healthy. I think you're going to see the same lineup. Maybe, again, just like you said, I'm going to parrot you here. Maybe you see Palmieri a little more on the top line with Barzal and Eberle. But I don't think Wally's going to get in. I don't. I think they're going to live and die by this roster as constructed right now.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Shawnee, any more questions from the audience?
I looked through a lot of comments, a lot of statements, not so much any questions. If anybody wants to try to sneak something, Mel Armenia 22, do they need more refs? I think 4 officials on the ice is enough. Maybe some more up in the sky. I don't know. But I think one thing everybody can agree on in the hockey world, not just here in Islander country, is the officiating, as Christian said, has been extremely inconsistent and has been poor. I think poor is a fair word to use. And I don't know how you remedy that, especially with the mysterious, it's even been like hinted at by people covering the game and writing about this stuff. Like this, mandate from the league to keep the games balanced and even and stuff like that. And so it's like, you don't know what you're going to get. Like when you see a replay in the Vegas-Montreal series, and I think it was a Montreal player just decked a guy from behind at the boards with a cross-check, and the ref was looking right at it. I mean, cut and dry penalty. And the guy didn't even flinch. He didn't even flinch. Clear penalty. And so it's obvious that there is this, whatever it is, some sort of mandate where they want to keep the penalties even as much as possible. And look, you don't want to get into conspiracy theories and stuff like that, as far as, they want this team to succeed because they're original 6, or they want the Islanders to succeed because it's their last run at the Coliseum and it's a great story.
The NHL could give two flyings.
Right. I'm just saying, you can create your own narrative as much as you want and your own conspiracy theories. But at the end of the day, we're probably never going to know why, the calls are as crazy as they are, especially when you see a referee looking right at a play.
Oh, 100%.
And everybody and their mother knows that it's a penalty and they don't call it. So it's something, unfortunately, that we got to deal with. I don't know. And I don't know if I see it getting any better. I hope it does. I think it was Gord Miller that was calling for them to, call it more like, I think, the World Juniors, where whatever's a penalty is a penalty, and they just call it cut and dry.
Right.
But look, anybody who's been watching the NHL for a long time knows that the games are called extremely different in the playoffs than they are in the regular season because they want the players to decide the games. But you know what? There's been some games where the refs have gotten too involved.
Yeah.
And they've made too many calls. I feel like there was at least one game in this series where they got way too involved and they steered the tide of the game. So, yeah, I agree, T-Boyle _13. Just call a fair game. That's it. That's where I am.
I agree.
Yeah, so
I agree.
So, what do you got?
No. I was just going to say, so no more questions, right?
No, the last thing I'm going to do here is plug our pals over at RJ Daniels. If you can't make it to the Collie tomorrow night, the best place to be to watch Game 6 is RJ Daniels in Rockville Center. Always have great drink specials and food specials, starting with $5 16-ounce Barn Rocker ales, $14 Bud Light pitchers, $17 domestic buckets, $4 domestic bottles or pints. And, of course, again, the food specials as well. Head on down for Islander games at 279A Sunrise Highway in Rockville Center from pregame until the final horn to get all those great specials. And, of course, should we see Game 7, which I'm saying we will, also a great place to watch a road Game 7 for the New York Islanders.
Yes.
You agree?
Yes.
Thanks for your input, Christian. All right, folks.
I don't know what you wanted me to say there.
Just maybe a little enthusiasm. Yes. A little enthusiasm, maybe?
Yes, they're great. You should go to RJ Daniels. They have phenomenal drink specials and food that's off the charts.
That's what we like to hear. So, folks, want to send out a huge thanks to Justin Bourne of Sportsnet for joining us for an excellent spot tonight. Want to thank you all for tuning in at twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY or for listening on your favorite podcast providers. Don't forget, we got merch over at HockeyNightNY.com. We got t-shirts. We got hats. You can get 10% off with promo code HNINY10. Hit it up. Check it out. And, of course, we want to thank our great sponsors, Blue Line Deli and Bagels, located at 719 West Jericho Turnpike in Huntington. Head on over for great food, great service, and great people. Check out the menu at BlueLineDeli.com for their great selections and hockey-themed heroes. And a big thanks to Ty Technology, a voice-over IP company providing phone services for businesses across the country. Check them out at TyTechnology.com for all your telecom needs, or give them a call at 516-856-7800 and get 3 free months of service. That's 3 free months of service. And, of course, a big thanks to Manscaped. Get 20% off plus free shipping with promo code HockeyNightNY at Manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at Manscaped.com using promo code HockeyNightNY. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Yes. Don't forget, folks, you can follow Christian on the Twitter at @C_Arnold01. Follow myself at Seany Hockey. Follow the show at Hockey Night NY on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. For Christian Arnold, my name is Sean Cuthbert. No matter what happens, we're going to see you all next week. Thanks for hanging with us. You guys have a great rest of your Sunday nights. Peace.